Hello there. Since I am obsessed obviously with drawing female characters, I have learned so many ways to make them look fierce, beautiful, feminine, and snatched. I once received a comment in one of my drawings saying that you can tell that my drawings were drawn by a woman. And that comment made me so happy because that's exactly what I want to do. I want to represent that beautiful side of the characters in such an empowering way. So who better to show you how to achieve this than Nico Robin herself, my muse. I guess in a way this is also a tutorial on how to draw Robin, but I will focus on the details that make my drawings pop. So first, always get reference images. You can use manga or anime references, or even other artists' work as inspiration, and my recommendation is to look for actual photographs for the pose you want to recreate, since it would always be the more natural and effortless way to mimic a pose. Before jumping into the actual drawing, I'm going to explain the fundamentals of the feminine aesthetic. The first thing you notice is the eyes. This is the element that will captivate the viewer. Having a strong look will make the overall drawing very impactful. You want to make long and winged lines that create that sort of almond shape. Narrow on the edges, and it opens in the center with opposite curvatures. Normally, you'll want a thicker and longer eyelash towards the edge, near the temples, and shorter eyelashes towards the inner corner of the eye. The direction of the eyelashes may vary, but it makes the eyes look bigger if you point the eyelashes to the same direction as each edge. Also, adding heavy eyelids makes the eye look sexier and more relaxed. This is a good eye for characters like Nico Robin. But for characters like NAMI, who have more rounded eyes, you can still make them look feminine. The difference is in the eyelids. NAMI will normally have the upper lid more open, therefore there should be less creases compared to Robin's. If you're doing a side profile, the trick is to make almost a flat upper lid, and then the lower lid will open diagonally, creating sort of a 45-degree angle on the edge. For our wider eyes such as NAMI's, the angle would most likely be around 80 degrees, having the upper lid wide open. Once you color the eyes, the important thing is that you shade the entire upper lid, and then you highlight right in the middle to make it look a little more glossy, and definitely add a thin shade of dark pink under the eyes for a smoky look. Also very important to highlight the inner corner of the eyes, but make it so that it doesn't merge with the white part of the eyes, of course. And there you have it, a very simple and easy way to draw eyes. Now moving on to the second feature that makes them look prettier, is having rosy and plump lips. I typically draw a very thin cupid's bow to indicate the middle part of the lips, but notice that I do not draw the rest of it. We want to make sure that we use minimal liner when drawing lips. Otherwise, our lips are gonna look like that very ugly trend in the early 2000s where women overline their lips with a darker shade than the lip color. God, what an awful time. So then you can start drawing the shape where the upper lip meets the bottom lip. We will do a simple, soft smile to start. I don't like making a continuous line for the lips, again to show that they are a bit fuller and more natural looking, instead of a flat, cartoony version. Then we need to add the bottom line, which generally must be a thicker line than the one that we did for the cupid's bow, so that we can see that the bottom lip pouts outwards, creating that full effect. I also like adding a darker line at the corners of the mouth, to make it look less flat and more realistic, showing where the upper and the bottom lips connect. The bottom lip will always have a stretch oval shape that tapers at the edges of the mouth, meeting with the corners we just drew. And the upper lip will also taper down at the edges, but the little indent we created will help us color the shape of the upper lip with more definition. Always make sure that you are looking at references. Now to render the lips, make sure that you use a soft brush so that it blends into the skin more naturally, instead of a harsh bold line. It would always go darker towards the center of the mouth where both lips meet. You must color in a darker shade of the skin below the bottom lip to create a three-dimensional effect. This is a crucial step to make the bottom lip look juicier. Now we definitely add highlights. Normally these highlights will be found in the center of the bottom lip as thin vertical strokes to kind of give that glossy effect, following the curvature of the lip. I like to also add highlights around the cupid's bow to give it a nice shimmer and fullness. And that's it. You can now adapt these same rules whether you are drawing an open mouth or a mouth on a side profile. Basically for the side profile you are just doing half of a lip, so the rules are the same. Here's a quick example of this technique applied to a recent drawing I made of Orihime from Bleach. Notice that I use soft brushes for the lips, going darker towards the center of both lips, and then bringing it to life by adding shimmer on the center of the bottom lip and at the edge of the upper lip. So now we can move on to draw Robin from scratch and apply all of these rules that we just learned. Starting with the normal base of the head, we will recreate a standard front view. As opposed to male characters in anime, especially in One Piece, where they have necks wider than their own legs, female characters have slender and delicate necks that normally start by where the jawline is drawn. The ears will go around eye level, and then for the eyes, this is the trick where it becomes fierce and snatched. Normally with anime girls, we see the eyes are big and round, and mostly tall rather than wide on the side. This makes them look cuter and more childish, rather than fierce and feminine. It's just like with makeup. If you do a wing liner, it extends your eye and makes it more impactful, as opposed to doing a round eyeshadow, making your eyes look like puppy eyes. We want catty eyes, fierce and stark. So we will be drawing the edge of the eyes into an almost flat line, but wing it upwards towards the end where the temples are. The droopier the eye, the sexier it looks. Robin particularly has very long and flat upper lids, making her have that mysterious reserved vibe, as opposed to Nami, who has very big round eyes, like most anime girls do. Why I always do a more detailed sketch is simply because I tend to make a lot of mistakes, and I use the liquify tool to adjust the heights and sizes of the elements in a messy way, before I clean it up in the line art. I would rarely go straight into the line art without first building a strong base. Normally, I am not a huge fan of large foreheads, so I will end up shortening Robin's forehead at some point. But since she wears her hair slicked back, it creates that effect. But having two strands of hair coming forward really softens that look, and makes a nice division between the ears and the face. Now, this is a delicate area, and I don't know how many of you will fight me for these, but I am not a big fan of having her boobs dripping out of her clothes like she's wearing like 3 sizes too small for her. I like the seamless lines with no bulkiness. She is drawn to have a big chest and tiny cinch waist, but there's no reason it needs to look tacky. So there, she still looks hot but classy. Before moving on to the line art, make sure that the center of the eyes align with the top part of the ear, and the smile falls on the base of the circle we did right above the chin. Feel free to use the liquify tool or the selection tool to adjust positions, sizes, proportions, anything you need before you move on into the line art. I do not recommend doing this in the line art, since it can make your line art blurry and not crisp anymore. Now, as I explained in my line art tutorial video, make sure you lower the opacity all the way to 20% to allow you to draw a cleaner line art. Use your favorite line art brush for this. I have a tutorial on how to create my own line art brush, but you can also download it on my Patreon if you like. So back to the drawing. It's all about thin and sharp lines that go up and out. That's how we get that snatched look, lifted and fierce. I'm kinda lazy, so I'm just copy-pasting the eye on the other side, but of course I tilted it a bit so it looks natural. Robin's nose in particular, which is different than any other anime, is that you have to kind of draw the bridge of the nose to create that 3-dimensionality. And what I like to do with mouths is to leave a gap right in the middle, because once we move on to the coloring, it gives that effect that the upper lip is fuller and it looks a lot smoother. Also, always draw the curve at the bottom of the lower lip to create that same effect. For the hair, we want to match that sharp vibe, so create long and smooth strokes in random places. Robin has sort of wavy hair, so you want to match that movement. It also makes the character look more natural if the hair has volume and movement around the face and sitting on her shoulders. Also, layering her hair makes it look more stylish and romantic, fitting her vibe perfectly. I feel like I'm styling an actual person with this commentary, but it really does work if you pretend that you are doing their hair and their makeup to achieve that pretty and feminine aesthetic. So for coloring, I'm going to do very basic shading just for the simplicity of this tutorial. However, I tend to mix and match different shadings whenever I work on a more detailed piece. But this basic shading style works wonderful as well. Sometimes less is more. The trick to achieving that soft romantic style is marking first the shaded areas with a bold brush, and then go over it with a medium tone and an airbrush. These merge the base color and the shadow in a softer style, and that's exactly what we want for a feminine look, for everything to be smooth and clean. I tend to stay updated on makeup trends, and you know what? That is also art. Therefore, it will most definitely apply to our drawings. So what's popular now is to add blush on the bridge of the nose to achieve that little sunburn effect, making the face look flushed and lively. To make everything look cute and rosy, I also add a pink eyeshadow on the upper eyelids and a little bit under the eyes for a smoky look. For the lips, I like to do an airbrush gradient with a slightly darker pink tone. Now she looks all pretty and rosy. Feel free to adjust the saturation of the skin once it's all shaded to add more warmth on the coloring. And of course, just as with makeup, the last step is to add highlights. So we will be using the blending mode add for this. and add highlights on the opposite side of the shaded area of the nose, as well as the inner corner of the eyes and a little bit on the jawline. Highlight the collarbone and the top of the chest for more defined toning of the skin, and of course, the glossy lips. Now she is glowing. The eyes normally look best when it's a simple gradient of colors, darker on the top part since there is a shadow casted by the top lash line, and then a glint on the eyes. For the hair, mixing soft shading will be best to match the skin, but feel free to add bolder shading if that's your preferred style. Coloring hair is always a struggle, but you don't need to go that hard if you're just aiming for a soft aesthetic. Now let's apply the same rules we did on Robin, but now on Nami, who has a very different aesthetic than Robin. She is presumably a more standard anime girl, but we will give her that snatched look anyway. Let's try a more angled pose to change it up a bit, and I'll do a cute pose with her chin resting on her hand. Her nose tends to be more petite and pointier than Robin's, so the tip of the nose will be higher on the face. I will respect the shape of her round eyes, but I will still give her that catty look. It all comes down to the thickness of the lash line and the direction and length of the eyelashes. Again, the hairstyle will complement the vibe we're going for, so again, make sure you draw wavy and smooth lines all over the place for movement. I'm going to speed through the liner process since it's the same rules I just explained for Robin. And for the coloring portion, same thing. Bold shading, followed by an airbrush coat to blend things together, deeper shading to add a 3D effect, and completed by adding rosy cheeks and nose, airbrush lips, and highlights on the higher points of the skin. And that's what will make your female characters look so pretty and snatched, just like that. Make sure to look up for poses from models or anyone that you'd like. There are plenty of pictures of poses and outfits and scenes that you can recreate with your favorite characters to create unique and beautiful artworks. I really hope you found this tutorial helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.